Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another beautiful day of NFT gaming. Here we're gonna go ahead and go over Dragon Mainland breeding system. So we don't have all of the information yet. We've got the white pages and some snippets from from things that other people, I guess, have talked about or found. And so it's not 100% certain that this is exactly how everything is going to go, but this is the best information I think that I can pull and gather together based upon what it is that I'm reading. So as you can see here, I'm very rock heavy. So I'm going to go over rock breeding. So one of the things that I was looking at early on was, the tank. So I played Axie Infinity, so a lot of my assumptions will come probably from like Axie Infinity specific stuff. That's the only other NFT game that I've played so far that I kind of have I did a lot of research on Axie and I found Dragon Mainland while I was kind of doing a lot of research on Axie. So, I'm going to be early in on Dragon Mainland and I was late in on Axie Infinity. But basically, one of the things that I'm looking at here is breeding skill traits that are very similar, trying to keep a purebred, not Haxie, purebred dragon. One of the things that I was told early on when in my reading was, that a purebred dragon is going to be hard to keep. So I have to imagine that they thought that it was going to go a different way as far as like people were buying the dragons and all that stuff. But as you can see, I was able to accumulate 23 dragons over time. So I have the ability to definitely pure breed dragons. Then there may be aspects that they haven't announced yet that I don't know, which could affect my ability to breed pure dragons. But basically, my rock dragon, I'm pretty confident that I'll have a very purebred rock dragon. My water dragons, I may have some purebred, and everything else, I've only really got one or two of the remaining dragons. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to pick up some more as time progresses. And I'm looking at probably as five is the number required, to pure breed your dragon. And so I'm going to go over that here in a little bit. But basically, first things first, you have your five different kinds of dragons. And one of the things I'm just going to kind of hit this real quick was something that I found that was kind of scary. It almost looks like yellow and blue makes green. I don't know if they just kind of threw that in there or if that might be a possibility with interbreeding, is that it switches your dragon in total, but it really looks like that's what they're saying here. So if you breed a lightning and a water, you're going to get a wind dragon. I don't know if that's legit, but that's kind of scary. But the breeding system, that's what we don't know. We don't exactly know. But I have this little line here connecting. So I'm wondering if that's going to be legitimate. It's going to be probably a shock to the first couple of people that figure that out. But I mean, that's what I'm thinking is that could be something that legitimately happens. They talk about in here, the attributes of your dragon, and as we go into the five different kinds, I'm again looking at the tank of the dragons, which is the rock, and I'm looking at what kind of defeats the rock. The arrows pointing, so thunder and water are kind of the Achilles heels. The dragons that apparently do more damage. As they talk about here in the white pages. This is the attributes, so basic combat attributes. So they have your different attributes, and I'm wondering, and I'm assuming that the attributes, it's either going to be when you feed on a dragon. So that it talks about when you're devouring a dragon, you can only devour the like attributes. So I don't know if that's going to mean that I need a 3/1/1, basically a water dragon to devour a water dragon, or if I happen to have like a storm dragon, which has overlapping speed, overlapping intelligence, overlapping health, maybe I can devour as a water dragon, a storm dragon, and still be good to go, to basically gain that skill level attribute. So that's, again, something else I'm trying to figure out, not 100% certain. But I know I'm pretty confident that if I'm a water dragon, I devour a water dragon, I'm going to be able to level up my attribute, level up my skill level. So that's, again, one of the other items that we're looking at here. But again, this is specifically about breeding. Once we figure out more of that other information about the rest of it, we'll go into that when we learn that. So, but for now, so basic breeding. So this is the white pages. This is the breed count that they kind of have in here. And this is something that was kind of brought up more recently. So I'm under the impression that this is the more correct breeding calculator than the one that was in the white pages. Not 100% certain, but I believe this is the newest information. It looks like the breeding days have been adjusted slightly, as well as the DMP looks about the same. It looks like they doubled the DMP. And I don't know if that's like a legitimate thing that they did there. This does say DMP required per dragon, so it looks like I'm gonna probably need and I don't know if that's DMP required per dragon, so I need 400, or if that's required per dragon, meaning I'm gonna need 200 DMP. But this does then say DMS required per dragon, so I'm thinking this is the breed total that's required. Also, the days between breeding, I think there's some confusion. So when we get the new eggs during Genesis, we got these new eggs. They were 7 days before they hatch. I strongly feel like we're going to breed an egg and then it's going to have to wait 7 days. The way some people are interpreting this as is that they're going to be able to hatch that egg in 2 days and then they're going to be able to breed, again. But I think what this is the adults, the breeding pairs, as I call them, the two dragons that are breeding each egg. I have a feeling that it's going to be, they can breed immediately and then they have to wait 2 days, then they can breed again, wait 4 days, they can breed again, wait 6 days, breed again, 9, 12, 15. This was 3, 6, 9, 15, 24, 39. I'm not, again, sure how, which speed to go off of. Additionally, I believe this is a total of 200 DMP required to breed one dragon versus and 0.2 DMS required to also breed that one dragon. So I believe that I have, for instance, if I had 7 breeding pairs available and I had 2 DMS and I had 1400 DMP available, I could breed immediately 7 dragon eggs. So that's what I understand. That's how I understand, these numbers that I'm looking at is that, 200 DMP per dragon, 2.2 DMS per dragon, and immediately I would get the eggs. And then 2 days later, I could breed all of those 7 pairs again if I have 400 DMP per egg, so a total of 2,800 DMP, and then 7 times 4, so 2.8 DMS required. So if I had basically 3 DMS and 2,800 DMP, I could most likely then breed 7 more eggs, and then I would have then another a 4-day waiting cycle before I could breed them a third, so on and so forth for the fourth. So I believe that's how the timing is currently working, but again, we will know more once the actual breeding times start, because I'm sure they're tweaking everything right now, trying to make it, the growth go at a certain rate. They're trying to make everything work, to where it doesn't get too ridiculous. But the other part of this is they've put into place many things to prevent or to have to consume dragons. Like, that's one of the things that I really find very interesting is, that to level up one of your dragons, you have to consume, to fully level a dragon, I have to consume 12 other dragons to become, fully leveled on my skills. And then I have to, I believe it's 3 full skulls or 3 skulls, whether they're full or partials or whatever. I think I can level up something, another attributes or some other attributes again with 3 skulls. So, again, not 100% certain about all the leveling yet, but I mean, based on what I'm reading, there's a devouring mechanism which is going to reduce the amount of dragons in the population, which will get rid of probably, like in Axie Infinity, you got all these like garbage Axies basically. This is probably going to be one of those things that gets rid of a lot of those garbage, dragons. So the ones with the inbred, mutations and all that stuff, which probably completely hamper the dragon's ability to function. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it gives them some weird special, trait. Kind of excited to find out. I'm looking forward to seeing, whenever that comes into play, what it actually does. But right now we don't know 100% on what that next thing is. They do say, it's like a negative mutation. So you have, your 3 genes, your dominant, recessive, and subrecessive, similar to Axie. So like for instance, if I'm breeding a particular trying to breed a particular skill, if I've got matching, this adult has almost 50% of the genetic, and then the other adult has another 50% of the genetic. And I'll go over this a little bit later, but I believe 100% chance of getting one gene if they both have the same genes. And I don't know if these Genesis dragons are going to start out at 100% dominant, recessive, and subrecessive as the same thing. And I'll go into this a little bit more later, but I'm just going to move to the next step here, which is talking about those mutations that I was speaking, that negative mutation for inbreeding. And then you also have positive mutations for mystic genes, which they kind of explain here. You have a 0.01% chance of, getting a mysterious, gene level, some sort of like I guess super special gene mutation, which is cool. And then you have a 1% or 1/10% of getting a rare gene level mutation. Again, not 100% certain what these are, but I'm sure they're good. It's a positive thing for your dragon, because then you also have the negative mutation, for inbreeding. So what I'm going to go over here, guys and gals here today, is specifically how to avoid the negative mutations. And then on the flip side of that, hopefully set yourself up to gather as many as possible the rare and or mysterious gene level mutations. So again, I believe pure breeding your dragon is going to be the way to do that. And I think matching genes, and this is the guess that I'm taking. Again, I don't know 100%, but my guess is matching genes is going to be something that plays into that. And so if you guys were on Discord, you saw me a lot of times asking, anybody have this particular type of dragon, because I'm looking for matching genetics. I want something that's similar to something else. Not only does that guarantee the kind of type of dragon that I'm going to get, but it also maybe has something to go into this, gene mutation where maybe it's a positive trait. These guys said, it's going to be very impossible to breed pure dragons. So my goal is basically to prove them wrong. At least with the rock dragon, I will probably have a massive, purebred rock dragon breeding program. You'll see here I've got 15 rock dragons, so I should do pretty well on that side of the fence. But we'll see how that goes exactly as time progresses. So I'm not going to know for sure, but let's go ahead and get into how it is that I'm going to how exactly I'm going to breed these dragons in a way that makes it an infinite loop, which is something that I was doing attempting to do in Axie before I gave up on the farming side of Axie. So as I was talking about earlier, the way to infinite loop the Dragon Mainland dragons. So the way that I've figured to infinite loop is to use 5 fairly close as my goal, dragons. So alpha Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo. So A, B, C, D, E. These are my 5 starting dragons here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to breed the A dragon. So A dragon is going to be my initial breeding pair. So A dragon is going to breed with the B dragon. And then I'm going to get born 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. So then what's going to happen is the 2A dragon is going to breed with the C dragon. So then they're going to breed 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D. And then the 3A dragon will breed with the D dragon. And then I'll get 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D. And then the 4A dragon will breed with E. And then I'll get 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D. And then the 2B dragon, so coming from the top, 2B is going to breed with 5A. So effectively, I have my first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation. So fourth generation is breeding with first generation. So why that's important is they talk about here that there is a negative mutation for second and third generation reproductions. So they don't go into fourth generation. So my guess here is the fourth generation is where now I've got enough difference in DNA that I won't have a negative mutation. It might not be 4, it might be less, but I'm taking no precautions because again these are expensive and I don't want to lose out by having too thin of a gene pool. And we'll figure this out, to be honest, as time progresses. Maybe eventually they'll go into a little bit more detail about it once we get closer, but that's what I understand based upon what I'm reading. And then also I get rid of sibling breeding and or breeding between half brothers and sisters because I have such a deep pool of breeding potential. Additionally, there may be an option where later on I'll breed a 2E, F, and G. So I'm going to breed, 3 more to kind of like, if this is like the pinnacle breeding DNA, I'll drop those in here later if I've got some bad mixed DNA down the road. So, 8th generation later, that may be a way to kind of try to keep and facilitate very similar DNA if I'm trying to keep an exact type of build. So like in Axie Infinity, a lot of times you breed one kind and you have a breeding pair and those breed, multiple of the same kind. You want to continue that breed, especially if it's a really good breed. And so, the only way to do that is to find another either set of breeding pair like that or take some from, the DNA that you already inherited. So my goal is that, doing this, I'm able to control my DNA inside my infinity loops. So this is one infinity loop. Once I hit the 2B and the 5A, now the next one is 6A, 3B. So the A and B births, so if I only birth 2 times, I could infinity loop. But I birth 4 times. The plan to birth is to birth 4 times so that I can do other things like crossbreeding, production or population growth, and I can breed in C and D. And so I'll go in that here in a little bit. But basically population growth and also being able to test things, selling. Also, I want to be able to sell some of these guys. I may end up selling after all of these are bred. Maybe I breed them 4 times and I sell them. There's all kinds of possibilities of what I can do with them. I'm probably going to keep the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, these 5 Genesis ones. I'm probably going to keep those for the rest of time. But I can sell all of these other dragons because I'm not going to necessarily need to keep them after they've bred at least 4 times. So, but I'll go into all that stuff here later as time progresses. Into when I go into my how I'm going to make money with the Dragon Mainland. So, getting back to the breeding aspect of it. So going into the specifics here with my Charlie breeding, what I'm going to be doing is I'm also going to be creating a larger population for devouring. So I've already figured out that I'm going to breed my Charlie and Delta variants. So my second generation Charlie Delta and the first one. So again, first, second, third. This is fourth generation. So this is the first time that I can breed these together. So I'll be able to do the same thing with the third and the sixth generation. Same thing with the fourth and the seventh generation. Then I got to wait 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I can do 8 and 11, 9 and 12, 10 and 13. So basically every 6 cycles of this infinite loop, I will be able to breed 16. Well, I'll get into that. There are a lot of different dragons. So basically, the C and the D, what I'm going to end up doing here. So 2C and 2D are going to breed with 5C and 5D. I'm going to breed 4 times on both of those. And then those are going to breed, the C1 and the D1. I'm going to, breed the C and the D1s, and I'm going to breed those 4 times. The C and the D2 4 times, the C and the D3 4 times, the C and the D4. So basically, what's going to happen is I'm going to have all of these additional breedings happening off the side of this infinite loop. So I'm going to have my infinite loop going where I'm keeping that pristine bloodline together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create all of these additional breedings here. Now, these are going to be like second brother, so they're going to most likely have that negative mutation. But these will have that the sibling or half brother and sister negative mutations. From what I understand, if I devour a negative mutation, I'm not going to bring a negative mutation into my pristine dragon. I believe I'm going to devour it, and I'm going to basically get a +1. So I think at this point, getting into that negative mutation territory, it's going to be fine for me because they're going to be the breeding itself is not going to affect my purpose for it, which is devouring. So these 16 on one cycle, these 16 dragons that I'm going to birth here are going to be, solely for devouring. Now, I was also looking at, I may even rebreed these again, and I might breed another, 16 times 16. I mean, I might breed a whole bunch more of these negative mutations, just again for devouring. So, and I may maybe breed them once, maybe I breed them a couple times. I don't know. I haven't quite nailed out what I'm going to do, but that's all going to be towards devouring. And then getting into the income side of things later, I may be able to sell 12 really garbage dragons for the purpose of devouring later. So I could sell 12 dragons at one time to somebody so that they could then turn their, rock dragon, because these are going to be rock dragons, into a fully developed rock dragon. So, this provides a sales opportunity in the future. Additionally, I'm going to end up selling these 4 bred 2C, 5C, 2D, 5D, and CC and D1, CC and D2, CC and DD3, all of these right here, these 12 dragons, I'm going to end up selling on the open market. Now, hopefully, because they're going to be decently bred dragons, they should fetch more money than the garbage mutation dragons. But it's going to just, the time will tell. But if I'm looking at this correctly and the days and all that stuff are correctly, so I'm going to breed 4 times. So that's going to be 0, 2, 4. Literally in less than 10 days, I'll be able to breed out 4 generations of dragon, it looks like. No. In less than 12 days. In 12 days, I'll be able to breed out 4 generations of dragons. So when we go back to here, let's see here. What's going to end up happening is, oops. Well, I guess this is fine. What's going to end up happening is I'm going to breed this one first. So I'm going to be waiting 2 days before I can breed this one. But when I breed this one first, I'll be able to immediately, or once it opens up, so I think 7 days later, then I'll be able to breed it with Charlie, which this one will already be bred by that point, and I'll be working on C. So then I can breed this one with Charlie, and then it's the same thing happens. 7 days later, I can breed it with Delta, and then 7 days later, I can breed it with Echo. And so basically, I'll have, so if it's seven, so in 21 days, I'll have these bred, and in 21 days I'll have these ones. Well, these will be bred, as well as probably 3B and 3C will be breeding. So I'm gonna have like there's gonna be I'm gonna be like working this whole diagram at the same time. So I'm gonna be going down as well as across breeding as time progresses. So I'll be able to breed all of these different dragons at varying speeds, but basically, so if it takes 7 days for the egg to open, so the egg opens and then I can breed 7 more days, the egg opens and then I can breed 7 more days, and then I can breed 7 more days. So you're talking in 1 month, I can be at my infinite loop, because this dragon will be ready to breed before 5A is born. So I'll have this one ready to go for 5A. And then, I'll also have within then, so that's going to be 28 days. And so then within basically 12 days after that, so a total of 12 days, I will have, so 21, so let's see here, 7, 28 plus 12. So in 40 days, I'll be able to breed my, start into the devouring dragon. So I'll be able to start getting into that breeding, because I'll have bred my 2C and my 2D, as well as my 5C and my 5D by that point. So I'll be kind of manipulating all of these loops at the same time. So it's definitely going to be something. As you can tell, I've already got Excel spreadsheets to track and pay attention to this. It's going to be a very encumbersome process of keeping all this stuff familiar and labeled correctly, so I don't get confused as to where everything is going. I'm going to have to change up between letters and numbers, and I might have to label each one a little bit specifically different, so that I'm not getting completely confused as to what it is that I'm doing. I believe you can name the dragons, or you'll be able to name the dragons, so it'll be very easy, I think, to keep them labeled, and I just gotta follow along and plug and play the different labelings as I progress. And so this is like an infinite. I'm going to have 9 generation, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and I'll just keep going. But I can do this on an Excel spreadsheet, which will keep me very organized, and then I should be able to keep my dragon breeding more organized, and so I'm not getting confused and not cross-breeding and inbreeding and all that. So that's the goal anyways. And so hopefully I can keep up with the DMP demand, which is the other critical component of the dragon breeding. And so when we go into the DMP aspect of it, we're going to be able to stake, mine, DMP. So we'll be able to get DMP through a couple different avenues. One of them is going to be stake mining, which is going to basically be, we put the dragon into mining camp, which let me pull up the this right here. So right now, we don't have mining camp available yet, but we have your blind box, which is going to be your skulls, or your chests, and then mining camp. So we'll be able to put our dragons into mining camp, and then they'll be there over time. We're going to have an energy bar, and I'm not exactly sure. And this is again where we don't know exactly how much energy we will have, but basically one energy will let one dragon mine for 3 hours, and they get 3 DMP per hour times 3 hours. So basically what I'm looking at is if I can get 10 dragons mining full time. So if you have a 24-hour period and you can mine 3 hours of that 24-hour period, you're going to need for one dragon 8 energy. So let's say I can set aside 10 dragons, and I can have a total of 80 energy to actually mine with. So it's going to depend on what we have available for energy. They didn't go into, I know the base is going to be 20. They did talk about the base of 20, But I don't know. And they kind of said, the more dragons, the more energy you'll have at your fingertips, kind of thing. But I don't know what that caps at, if they're going to cap at. This may be where, you have the scholars that are helping you build your energy reserves or your breeding capability, building up the DMP reserves. So I'm not 100% certain on that just yet, but this may be, the portion where we're going to be bringing in scholars to help with this mining. But basically here, if I can, let's say I can keep it all in one account, as long as I have 80 energy, I can get 10 dragons breeding. And so 10 dragons will breed at 3 per hour times 3 hours. So that's going to be in one breeding cycle. They're going to be breed 90. And then we're going to have 8 breeding cycles. So that's going to be 720 in one day if I can breed 10 dragons full time. So when you're talking about how much breeding I'm going to be doing, I just did that again. When you're talking about how much breeding I'm going to be doing, and let's say, so if I can get 720 DMP in one day, that means I can breed 3 of these initial dragons in one day. So I'm gonna have, so my speed of breeding is going to be heavily dependent upon how much DMP I can create, on top of maybe how much DMP I can buy, depending on what's available on the market. So a lot of that's going to really dictate how this whole thing goes. So I won't be able to do, the fastest within, 40 days having my first breedings of, the C&D dragons. Maybe I won't be able to do that by that point because I don't have enough DMP saved up to do that. But we won't know until we get there, unfortunately. So a lot of this is it's guessing. We're our educated guessing. We're hypothesizing what we anticipate will happen. And I take 80 energy from, that's an Axie Infinity thing. There are very striking similarities to Axie Infinity, but these guys are also doing a lot of things different than Axie Infinity. So, not to say that they're going to even max it at 80. They could max it at 200. I mean, who knows how much energy you're going to be able to be allowed on each account. So, that's something that we will find out as time progresses. Hopefully, I mean, I would love for it to be where I could do all of this on one account and I don't need any scholarships, but it's going to be a lot of work for me to do all of this on my own. So maybe I want scholarships. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. But basically, this is what I'm looking at as far as, I'm going to be able to produce DMP that I will then be able to turn into dragons. The other thing that was beneficial was they gave us 10 DMS. They're going to give us 10 DMS per dragon for our initial breeding. And if were lucky enough to get in on the IDO, which was 1,000 dragon shards, the DMS for the IDO, then you'll have plenty of shards to do that with. You can also stake those shards, so you may be able to then earn shards and maybe even earn enough to do infinite breeding. That's the other aspect of this that I'm going to be learning as they open up the breeding system and or the pledge mining system for the DMS. So I'm very excited to get into those aspects of it. But as far as the breeding specifically is concerned, this is what we know so far. And, this is how I'm intending to keep my dragons purebred. So we've been told there was something earlier that I read, and they talked about it would be near impossible to keep your dragons purely bred. A lot of people are going to be breeding water, whatever, with maybe wind or with lightning or who knows. Like there's going to be a lot of different interbreeding. People are going to be doing a lot of experimenting. That's going to also dictate the mutations and what's available in the market. I'm intending to have a minimum of 2 of each. My goal is to have 5 of each dragon to have a infinite loop. Again, you just need 5 dragons to make a loop infinite. So my goal is to actually do that with all 5 races, is have an infinite loop. My rock dragons will be the ones where I really get to play with the DNA and try to get those traits specifically like I like them. But like the fire dragons and all these ones, my goal is that I'll be able to breed these and enough time pass and maybe I can make some money with the selling of my rock dragons that I can then in turn buy some fire dragons, water dragons, lightning or thunder dragons, and wind dragons, so that I can buy these 5 of those dragons to further breed with purity. So I won't know. We won't know until we get there. But that's the goal: keeping an eye on the market, keeping an eye on what's going on. As I start selling, I'll have some money to then invest in buying some of these dragons. So that's going to be my goal, and then build up again 5 of those different types of dragons to then in turn have 5 infinite loops of different dragons per 5 different cycles of infinite loops, so that I will have 1 for each breed, and I'll have for the rock dragons, I'll have quite a few. I'll have probably 3 going for the rock dragons. So that's ultimately the goal. We'll see what we can accomplish, but I won't know until obviously we get to that next step, which is breeding. So, all right, guys, I will see you later. Hopefully, this has been informative, and hopefully, this gives you a better idea of what it is that we can do with our with our infinity loops. Trying to get your alpha dragons basically in place with your alpha through echo, your A B C D E dragons, and how you can then infinite loop those dragons to where you can keep breeding and never run into the point of having an inbred dragon. So either way, if you guys have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll catch you on the flip side.